So Elaine Parker, again, you can go to jobcreatorsnetwork.com, find out all of what they do, and then get involved in some way. So Elaine, what is your assessment? Do you think that half the country understands that the Inflation Reduction Act is an Orwellian name for something that will increase inflation?
Well, let me take you down memory lane, Dennis, for just a moment to a very small bill called the Affordable Care Act,
Oh yeah.
which was what I thought was going to be the worst named bill ever because no one can afford it. And we know that because they have to keep giving people subsidies to be able to afford insurance in the exchanges of the Affordable Care Act. And it has been one of the big reasons why healthcare has been driven up so high that people can no longer afford insurance. And that was partially passed to increase more subsidies in this wrongly named Inflation Reduction Act. And so now let's go forward, fast forward to the Inflation Reduction Act, which has now earned the spot of the winning worst named bill ever. But it certainly shows that the Democrats know how to market their bills. I mean, if you think about it, think about the front of a Diet Coke can. If you held the front of a Diet Coke can, that's how Democrats market their policies to the American public. It's Diet Coke. It's happiness light in a can. You should drink it. Done. That's it. There's no questions. Republicans come along, turn the can around, and say, let me read you the entire ingredient statement and then convince you why you should drink it. Because no one wants to hear what the ingredients are. If they did, they wouldn't drink it, right?
Well, I have to say, I'm not. I'm with you on the Diet Coke, but I will say Diet Coke is not as bad for you as this bill is.
Very true. Very
I'll
true.
tell you, I so love my country that I would do the following. I would have a can of Diet Coke a day if this bill, if that were the price to pay to not pass this bill. This bill is, look, how do you print $750 billion of new dollars and say it reduces inflation? I mean, why are we even discussing this? Why isn't this obvious to half of America? Seriously, do you have a theory?
Well, I mean, think about how much they talk out of both sides of their mouth, Dennis. On the one hand, they try to convince Americans after the second quarter GDP results came out that we're not in a recession. That's not how we measure things. We're not in a recession. Then they say, oh my gosh, we have to pass this $700 bill, tax and spend bill on climate change and healthcare issues because it will help. It'll be deflationary. So you can't have it both ways. Are we in a recession? Do we have 0% inflation? Do we have no inflation, but we have to spend money to bring down inflation? I just can't imagine how they message and chase their tails on this thing. The media lets them get away with it. But the interesting thing is the media is no longer calling it the Inflation Reduction Act because they had to acknowledge that it's not going to bring down inflation. And the reality is, Dennis, you may not know this, maybe you do, but if we measured inflation the same way we measured inflation back when
Hold on
Jimmy
that
Carter
point.
was in
Yes, wait,
office.
wait. Remember that point. I want to hear it, and then tell everybody again. Job Creators Network. In the meantime, folks, a fairly large number of you suffer from tingling and numbness in your hands and or feet. I'd like you to try Nerve Renew. I tried it. I've had this in my feet much of my life. It was so effective after about 9 months that I threw away my inserts in my shoes that had helped me somewhat. Try it for 2 weeks for free, and for a year you have a money-back guarantee. TryNerveRenew.com. Go to TryNerveRenew.com. I take it. I ask them to advertise. TryNerveRenew.com.
The Dennis Prager Show. on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Dennis Prager Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Dennis Prager Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The Dennis Prager Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 15 seconds. The Dennis Prager Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 45 seconds. The Dennis Prager Show on the Salem Radio Network. Break in 15 seconds. The Dennis Prager Show returns in 5 seconds.
Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager here in Chicago. By the way, for those of you in Chicago, I just learned that the event is sold out tonight, which is gratifying. And it'll teach you a lesson. Don't wait to the last minute. Having my annual cigar night here. It's now it's now sort of tradition. Instead of just giving a lecture in these different cities for my stations, I now have cigar nights, which I have to say I find very appealing. Just had one in L.A., Chicago tonight, had one in Tampa a few months ago, and elsewhere. Elaine Parker is the chief of communications for this magnificent group, Job Creators Network. Please go to jobcreatorsnetwork.com and let them know you exist. It's critical. So you were mentioning, and sure enough, I'm looking here, that this Fox News headline, reporters blasted for abandoning Inflation Reduction Act title. What is the name of the act now?
Well, the media is calling it the Climate and Healthcare Spending Bill.
But that's not the name.
Neither was the Affordable Care Act, and now we call it Obamacare.
I see. That's an interesting point. So, I mean, it just shows, folks, how the media is it just simply works with the Democrats. Because they know. Am I right in assuming they know that most Americans thought the name was a farce?
They know it. I mean, the CBO came out and said it. The JCT, the Joint Committee on Taxation, said it's not going to reduce inflation. Even Joe Manchin looked at the cameras and said, "Yeah, but they could be wrong. Sometimes they're wrong." I mean, they're just ignoring the data. And the reality is, Manchin was just he was our wall because he was so concerned about inflation. And if we still calculated inflation the way we did under the Carter administration, because they changed it, inflation would actually be in double digits for us right now. I don't know if people know this, but they don't count housing when they calculate inflation. Housing is up about 20%. I mean, it's maybe more
Wait.
than 20%.
Has it been counted in the past? Housing?
And in 1983, they stopped including housing in the inflation
I see.
calculation, in the
Okay.
CPI.
So to be fair, the change is not new. The change is 40 years old.
That is correct. It is correct.
Yeah. Okay. No.
But we haven't seen
I just
inflation this high in 40 years.
no.
So
No.
when
I
you
couldn't
start
agree
looking
with
at
you
that,
more.
you
Right.
can't compare it. You can't adequately compare it to the Carter administration until you calculate it the same as the Carter administration, which would put us in line with the Carter administration right now.
Right, because the Carter administration was 76 to 80, and they counted housing and inflation.
That is correct.
So I have a final question. I'm big on theories. You have a theory about why Joe Manchin voted for this bill?
My theory is always nefarious with backroom deals and
Right.
or
Okay.
not
I
Republicans, but
agree. What backroom deal do you have any idea? I don't.
I don't. It's
Yeah.
just always there's always a backroom deal though. Otherwise, why
Right.
would they? I mean, why did Kristen Sinema,
I know.
protect the carried interest? It's because those are her donors.
Wow. Well, anyway, people like you prevent despair. Elaine Parker, thank you. Please, everybody, go to jobcreatorsnetwork.com. I'll see you soon, Elaine. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.